Hi everyone, it's Rax. The two questions I get by far the most on my stream are, how do you get to such a high Paragon level? And how do you farm all those Primal Ancients that you're wearing? Well, I'm going to take you through a guide that takes you from level 1 with nothing to Paragon 3000 with full Primal Ancients and the most efficient way to do that, along with every tip and trick that I know to get you there. In the description below, there will be timestamps for all the different topics that we'll cover in case you'd like to jump forward and skip the beginning part. But let's start straight from when we're level 1 all the way to the end. Alright, the first step is getting to level 70, and by far the fastest way to do that is to get a power level from a friend. They could either carry you through rifts, or an even faster way is to have them use a cow stick to open a cow level, and when you're sitting down there and they clear it, you're going to fly to 70. They could wear a Leorix with a ruby to give you extra experience. They could wear a Leorix ring if they have it, and they can throw a gem of ease in their weapon to speed up the process. If you don't have a friend who can level you up, I have a full guide on the fastest way to level up that I'll put right above me here. So please go check that out for a full guide on the fastest way. Now we're level 70, and the next thing that we want to do is complete our seasonal journey to get a starter set that's going to let us farm the gear for whatever spec that we want to play. So the very first thing you should do is go to Kadala, and with whatever blood shards you have acquired, go to the armors that only cost 25 blood shards each, and just start gambling for some legendaries. So I'm just going to go here. Okay, I got a legendary. Good enough. And try to just get a legendary in as many slots as you possibly can before you start going for your seasonal journey. So your seasonal journey can be accessed with either Shift J or right click and view season journey. Okay. And I'm not going to go through all of these. You complete chapter 1, it unlocks chapter 2. When you complete chapter 2, it's going to give you 2 pieces of a set. Same with chapter 3, and same with chapter 4. By the time you've completed chapter 4, you go in the bottom left corner, and Hadrig is going to give you 3 gifts. Claim them to inventory, and you open them. And there is my beautiful set that I'm going to start out with to start farming Paragon levels and the Primal Ancients for our endgame character. Beautiful. We're level 70. We've completed our season journey to the point where it's given us a full set. In this case, for season 17 for Necromancers, they gave us Inarius. The next step that you want to do is identify what endgame spec you'd like to play. And once you've done that, we can use some cube recipes and some crafting tricks to give us the basic items that we need to start farming Paragon levels and Primal Ancients efficiently. So let's quickly take a look at that. Let's start with recipe 4, convert set item. Let's say I really want to play Pestilence, and I've got 2 pairs of Ancient Pestilence boots, but I don't need 2 pairs of boots, I need the gloves. What you can do is throw it into the cube and fill it in, and it's going to re-roll this Pestilence piece to some other piece of Pestilence in order to complete your full set. That's the fastest way to complete a set in order to get all those buffs to start using your build. Warning, the resulting item can't be Ancient or Primal Ancient, so it's just something to use in the very beginning to finish out the set that you're going for. Okay. Also, for upgrade rare item, this is extremely valuable if you need a very specific item to wear or cube. Now, you need to be careful. This particular recipe is expensive, so it's in general a bad idea to use this recipe on something like rings, because there are 5 million rings in Diablo. When you take a yellow item and upgrade it to a legendary, there are so many choices, it's very hard to get what you want. But, for example, let's say I really needed a Raylina Shadow Hook, either to wear or in my cube. If I craft two-handed scythes, or probably even better, gamble for them, and then go here, there are only 4 legendary scythes in the game. Okay, I didn't get it, but that is a good use of this recipe in order to get a missing key piece for your build. One more recipe that I want to mention is recipe number 2, Reforged Legendary. This recipe should be used very selectively because it's extremely expensive. It costs 5 of every bounty material, and as we'll cover in a minute, bounties are not really what we want to be doing. It's a good idea to use this in the beginning on things like weapons, to get an ancient weapon or potentially a primal ancient weapon. This recipe can give you ancients and primal ancients, unlike Convert Set, which cannot. Okay, but I'd only use this to upgrade or reforge your most important pieces at the beginning of the season, because as we'll explain in a minute, we're going to be saving all the rest of these materials until the end of the season, and there's a reason why. The next step on our journey is we want to clear Greater Rift 70 solo. If you've picked any popular endgame build, it's going to be able to clear a Greater Rift 70 pretty easily. Now, just in the small chance that you don't know the difference between regular ancient and primal ancient, I'm going to cover it very quickly. An ancient is an item that has no border and has the worst stats of the 3 types of legendaries. Okay. An ancient has a golden border around it, okay, and has better stats than a regular legendary can. And finally, a primal ancient has the same level of stats as an ancient, but it rolls perfectly. Perfectly in quotation marks, because it can roll all the wrong skills with perfect amounts. So a primal ancient, unfortunately, doesn't mean a great item. So just as an example, this legendary ring can only have from 416 intelligence to 500. I'm just holding control over the item. Chrisman's, the ancient one, can have 550 to 650. It's better. And finally, the Neluge's Evil always rolls perfectly at the ancient level, always 650. If you have not cleared a GR70 solo, primal ancients cannot drop. And in general, there's been a lot of testing done on the forums. They are about a 1 in 400 to 1 in 500 chance to drop. One other thing that I will mention about primal ancients is, once you have cleared a GR70 solo, you get a primal ancient for completing that. And also, when you've unlocked it, primal ancients can drop anywhere. They can drop in regular rifts, greater rifts, bounties, crafting, Kadala, anywhere in the entire game. Now let me briefly explain Paragon levels and why they're important. So we level 1 to 70, and then every level we gain after 70 starts a different counter that starts at 1 and goes forever. And you can see I'm Paragon 2,561 right now on season. And so when you hit higher Paragon levels, you can fill in all of these stats on your character. Okay? When you hit Paragon 800 and beyond, you can fill in the stats in these 2 categories, intelligence and vitality, aka your main stats for your character. So, as you continue to gain Paragon levels, you continue to gain vitality if you want to survive, or you continue to gain your main stat for extra damage and a little bit of survivability. So, getting as many Paragon levels as you possibly can, as quickly as you can in the season, is a big determining factor of how high you can place on the leaderboards and how hard you hit and how much you can survive. So, just a quick explanation of why Paragon farming is extremely important. Alright, we're level 70, we've got our intro starter set, We've crafted the necessary items. We understand what Primal Ancients are. We understand why we want Paragon levels. I am about to give you the most important hint in all of Diablo. There's nothing even close. And it doesn't just apply to Diablo. It applies to every ARPG, most games that you'll ever play. If you remember nothing else about this video, I want you to remember that town is lava. That's all you need to know. If you're in town, you're wasting time. Okay? You want to minimize the amount that you're in town, treat the floor like lava, and you want to get back down and continue playing. Next, we're going to go through all the game modes and which ones are the most important, and I'm going to give you tips and tricks that are all going to be centered around town is lava. Never be in town. Remember that. Town is lava. All right, into the meat of what we actually want to talk about. There are 3 game modes in Diablo that you play. Greater Rifts, Rifts, and Bounties. By a mile, the most important one is Greater Rifts. Greater Rifts are the only one that give you Paragon levels. Rifts and Bounties give you a negligible amount, but it's absolutely nothing compared to Greater Rifts. So Paragon farming is completely based on Greater Rifts. It's also the only game type that can level up your legendary gems. My level 136 Zaystone of Vengeance, you cannot level it up anywhere else. Similar to that, Greater Rifts are the only place where you can get gem ups for augments. You see the 675 intelligence at the bottom of this Chrisman sentence? You cannot get that in any other category. And finally, Greater Rifts also give you the most legendaries, by far. Way more than regular Rifts, even ran at Torment 16. Way more than Bounties. So Greater Rifts are king, so we're going to spend some time talking about how to be efficient in Greater Rifts and what the optimal mix of Rifts and Bounties with Greater Rifts is. So, for Greater Rifts, in order to be efficient, first of all, try to make groups with your clan or your friends or in the public channels that synergize with each other. For example, have a support character. Have a character that's very good at clearing trash. Have a character that's very good at killing the bosses or yellow juggernauts. Try to have an idea of what kind of group that you're looking for, because if you're all playing the exact same role, it usually doesn't work. Okay? Another very important thing, when you get done with a Greater Rift, the next thing that you do is start another Greater Rift. Do 2 or 3 in a row, depending upon how much blood shard space that you have, and you get more and more of it as you clear a higher solo Greater Rift, but you should have already cleared a 70, so you should have a decent amount already. Okay? Another thing is, when you're upgrading your gems, when you start the gem upgrade for the 3rd to last upgrade, you can start teleporting to town while you click the last 2 upgrades. That only saves you a few seconds, but believe it or not, when you run hundreds, if not thousands of Greater Rifts, it actually starts to add up. And another thing that kind of goes with do 2 or 3 in a row and then clear, that also means don't identify your items after every single rift. And even if you get an upgrade, unless you're certain it's a massive upgrade, just put it in your stash and look at it later. Because you've already taken the time to make the group, and you want to get a synergy to it, a flow to it. You go in, you clear it, you upgrade your gems, you teleport out while you're finishing up your last few gem upgrades, okay? You blood rush, you close it, and you start the next one. I encourage you, remember, town is lava. Get out of town. Go back down. Don't gamble every time. Don't identify every time. say in your group, let's do 2 and then clear, or 3 and then clear. And then when you do get that upgrade, or you're not sure, is this Neluge's Evil better than my Neluge's Evil? The answer is, I don't know. So I'll throw it in my stash, and I'll look later. Be as efficient as possible, and you will get the most legendaries and the most Paragon levels possible in Greater Rifts. Alright, let's move on to regular rifts. Regular rifts are necessary because they give us Greater Rift keys, the only place to get them. Okay? We want to spend most of our time in Greater Rifts, but we have to do regular rifts to even open them. Regular rifts are incredible for getting materials, reusable parts, arcane dust, veiled crystals, and very importantly, death's breaths, which are important for crafting, which we do a lot of in the beginning and in the end. We'll get to that in a second. Okay? So efficiency in regular rifts. The second the Guardian is dead, grab all the loot, dive over here, and close the rift. It's a 30-second timer. It's a super long time, and unlike in Greater Rifts, you have time to identify everything. You have time to gamble. You have time to salvage it all, and you have time to get back down. You got 30 seconds. That is a lifetime. You can clear it all in 20. Okay? Similar to Greater Rifts. If you get an upgrade that you're not quite sure is better, throw it in your stash and get back down. Now, inevitably, there are always situations where some people may be in town while the rest of the group is going, and they're doing something. Who knows what it is? If you're that person, if you're in town, and they have just killed the Guardian, what I like to do first is close the rift. And then I go down and grab the Greater Rift stones. That actually saves a few seconds. And again, when you're farming hundreds, if not thousands of these, multiply that by a few seconds, you get stronger. Every little thing helps. Another thing, when you're doing these in groups, which you should be, because more people you can clear it faster, when you get a map where you guys can go separate ways, go separate ways. You're going to clear the rift faster. Remember, the only thing that we really want are the Greater Rift keys at the end and the Death's Breaths. You do not have to pick up absolutely everything. You should not be teleporting back to town to salvage an inventory full of yellows and blues to go down and get more. Okay? That stuff will come if you're just efficient and keep spamming the rifts. The only time you should really go back to town is if you got a goblin pack. And in most cases, not even then. Okay? So those are my tips on doing regular rifts as fast as possible. And finally, bounties, which I would put at the bottom of the list. I never do bounties until the end of the season, and only if it's necessary. What bounties do is they give you the materials to reforge legendary. That recipe that we talked about that you can use in the beginning to get an ancient weapon to get you started. The reason why these should be done last is because a season lasts 3 months, okay? And we already talked about by far the best mode is Greater Rifts because it gives you levels and it gives you the most legendaries, gives you the highest chance for the most primals, okay? In that 3-month journey, probably at the end of it, you're going to push the leaderboards, right? You don't want to farm bounties and start crafting perfect gear at the beginning of the season because you have no idea what items are going to drop in the first 2.5 months as you're farming. For example, you might get 5 primal weapons, but no good rings. Or it could be the exact opposite. So if you spend your time crafting certain items in the beginning, you might find the next day you found a primal version of that item anyway, and you just wasted all of your mats. So because you don't know what's going to drop throughout the season, I would always focus on bounties at the end to make whatever item you're missing. Okay? It confuses me when people do millions and millions of bounties at the beginning of the season. It makes no sense to me. You might get a full Primal character and you might not even need the materials. Now, bounties are good in the beginning if you need to get the recipes, because a lot of the recipes drop in the caches, or if you need a specific item that only drops in bounties, then of course it makes perfect sense. But other than that, I would save bounties until the end. I would save the materials until the end, because remember, we're going to be spamming greater rifts and we don't know what's going to drop. And one probably obvious piece to add on bounties, it's way better to do them in a 4-player game separately, because the bounties don't get much harder, and with 4 people working to complete the 25 quests, you're going to get them done way faster. Another reason not to do bounties, can you tell I don't like bounties, is every week there is a challenge rift. You go to game settings, challenge rift, which is a weekly challenge that I post a guide on every week, by the way, shameless plug. And the rewards are bounty materials and other nice things for about 5 minutes of your time. Okay, so if you do this every week of the season, you should actually have a good amount of bounty materials for the last couple of pieces that you need to reforge. It's another way to avoid doing bounties if you hate them as much as I do. Well, that wraps it up, everybody. Just as a quick summary, remember, level to 70 quickly. The fastest way is with a power level or with the guide that I posted. Do your seasonal journey for the set. Do some crafting to craft the skeleton of your endgame set. And feel free to reforge a weapon to the ancient version so you can have a good start. Then clear a GR70 solo to unlock Primal Ancients. And then it's all about greater rifts. It's all about efficiency. It's all about town is lava. Do the challenge rift every single week and only do bounties to the extent that you need the items that only drop in bounties. Otherwise, save the materials until the end because you don't know what's going to drop. I challenge you to be as efficient as possible and shave a few seconds off of every greater rift and every rift that you do, and just grab a snack, grab a drink, sit down, and when it's time to play Diablo, be efficient and just grind it out. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I have some other guides coming out that I'm very excited to share with you. Let me know in the comments down below what you'd like to see. I'll make a video on whatever will help you guys, and please throw me a like and subscribe if this helped you, and come check me out on Twitch. Thank you, guys.